Hi, welcome to the next series of videos on Docker and Kubernetes. So as part of this video demonstration, I'll be taking you through the minikube setup, and we will deploy sample node.js application on minikube. So that's the agenda. We go ahead and build a sample node.js API, we dockerize it, pushes to the Docker hub, we do a minikube setup, and we deploy this on minikube. More about me, I'm Shrikant, co-founder of Tech Shots. It's an app which gives you technical um, latest news updates. You can always reach me on my email and my LinkedIn. So let's go to the Node.js app. So I have this Node.js app running on my local box. I've also pushed this to my GitHub learning repository, so you can always go download this and do a quick test on the same. So it's kind of pretty simple. It basically has an application with a root, a person root, with a very common get CRUD operation. So we have the get, delete, get by ID, and the post kind of methods here. So I also have a Docker file to dockerize this particular Node.js. So if I go ahead and quickly run this locally, so I need to do an npm start. So once you basically download this particular repo, you need to do an npm install on the repo, so it gets all the node modules, and then do an npm start, and you should be all up and running. So I have postman. So in the postman, if I basically go ahead and now do a get all on the person, so I see a list of persons. So with this in place, I go ahead and I wish to dockerize this. So in order to dockerize this, if you see, I have this Docker file that I basically show here. So I can do a docker build -t node API server. Say I want to call version 2, and the context is the local context. So once I have this, so I have this image up and running. So if I do a docker images, so you should be able to see a node API server v2 that was built a few seconds ago. So I'll go ahead and push this. So I do a docker push node API server v2, but I can't do this unless I retag this to my repository name. So I'll do a docker tag node API server v2 to Shrikant Hanagood Shrikant Hanagood slash node API server v2. So once I tag this, now I do a docker push Shrikant Hanagood slash node API server v2. You should now see that the image should be pushed to the Docker hub. So let me go back to my Docker hub. So I have my Docker hub where I have a couple of public images. So I had pushed a Node Web API a while back, and that was version v1. So now I should in a minute see a version v2 that should come up here in a while. So let me go back, and now I see the v2 is pushed. So if I go back and do a refresh here, I should see the v2 hopefully in a while. Yeah, I think I didn't name it well. The one that I named now is a node API server. So the node API server v2 is what that got pushed right now. Alright, now that we have this image, now we'll see how we can basically deploy this image on minikube. So in order to do that, I have ubuntu box that I have created an EC2 instance, and have this ubuntu box, and we'll have I don't have anything running here. I don't have minikube running, but as part of my GitHub repo, you see a minikube setup folder which has a setup bash script. that you can use to install minikube. So I'm going to show that to you right now. So so let me do a bash setup dataset. So you see, as and when this goes ahead, you should see that the minikube must be installed. Okay, there you go. You have minikube up and running, and I'm going to minimize this. Okay, so if I do a minikube status, you should see that I have the kubelet API server, the host, everything is running perfectly fine. I also have installed kubectl as part of the setup. So if I do a kubectl get nodes, you should see that we have a minikube master running. We have a concept called context. The point here is, if you have multiple Kubernetes cluster, you can set the current context to a specific cluster that you want to work upon. So if you want to know what is your current context, you can say kubectl config view. That should get you the current context that that you are actually working upon. It is, hey, you are working on the current context of minikube, and your minikube server is running at this particular IP address. All right, now that we have minikube set up, we will go ahead and see how we can deploy the image, the Docker image that we just built, the nodejs server. We will see how we can deploy this on the minikube cluster. Okay, so in order to do that, I have a very simple command as part of the kubectl. I have a kubectl deployment object. I would say, hey, I want to deploy with the name test node API, and I want the image to be Shrikant Hanagood slash what was the image name? It was node API server v2. So I'll say node API server colon v2, and yeah, that's pretty much, I believe, what you need to say here. It says unknown command deployment. What I forgot was, I need to create a deployment. So I'll go ahead and say kubectl create a deployment object, and I want to name it as test node API, and it should basically go ahead and deploy the image node API server v2. And there you go, you see the images create, you see the deployment is okay. It may say the deployment is okay, but there could be chances that the failure happens. And if you want to know more information about what's actually happening in the deployment, you can do a kubectl describe deployment test node API, and that should say, hey, your image is Shrikant and good node API server v2. It has this particular label test node API. So we have a concept of the actuals versus what is required. So my desired state is one replica, I have one running, so we are all good. So we also have a kubectl get pods command to know what are the pods running. So right now I just have one pod test node API, and it's running quite healthy. Now we had this particular postman where we went ahead and curl to this particular port 3000. So let's try and do the same here as well. So what I'll do is, right now I'm on the same box, and now I somehow want to communicate to port 3000. So let me first do a curl http localhost 3000. That was basically person/all, and you see the connection is refused, and that's correct, because right now the web API what we just ran is running inside this particular pod. So now we somehow need to ensure we connect to that pod and nothing is running on my localhost 8000. So in order to do that, we have a port forward command to forward the port from the pod 3000 to your localhost port. So what you could do is you could do a kubectl port forward. What do I need to forward? I need to forward my deployment objects, um, test, what is the deployment name? The deployment name is test node API. So I need to forward the test node API deployment, whatever is running on 3000 locally. I want to say forward to 9090 on my host. So once I do that, now I can say do a curl http localhost, and now it's 9090 on the host. That's basically listening, and it basically forwards that. It's something pretty similar to how the SSH for tunneling works. So it basically forwards the request that hits to your local port 9090 to the pod that's running on 3000. So once I do this, I say http localhost 9090 person slash all. The reply is bad. It didn't like something here. Well, I think I probably didn't specify the port forwarding correctly, so I missed a semicolon in between this. So it should be I want to forward the port that's 3000 on my deployed object pod to 9000 on my host. So it says permission delete. Let me do a control C. I think the port number was bad, so let me do it again. So I want to say 3000 to 1991, assume. So we're good on 1991, and if I say I want to curl to 1991 now, it again says connection refused. Let me see what's going on for a second. Okay, I just had put the port direction the other way, so it should be port forward test node API 9000 on my local host to the 3000 on the pod. So once I do that, and I did a curl now, which I'm going to show you right here, you should now be able to see the same content what you saw when you ran your Node.js server on your local box. You see the same response coming from the minikube Kubernetes cluster. That's pretty much about deploying a sample web API on minikube. I'm going to show more articles on the internals of Kubernetes and how it works in the next subsequent articles. Stay tuned. Thank you for listening. Have a good day. Bye.